Song adjusts his headphones as he mutters the number of his next attempt. His finger slams the key, signaling the start of the game. The screen explodes with motion as two forces collide. His opponent is known as the Immortal King, the ultimate boss of the game, and only the top 50 players have the opportunity to battle him. Song's eyes widen, realizing the danger before him. Beams rain down across the battlefield as the boss's immense range leaves him no room to hide. The boss's expression hardens. Then, he unleashes another devastating blast. Song braces himself against the surge of power. The impact shakes the ground apart, leaving a deep scar across the earth as proof of the single lethal strike. Song steadies his sword as he recalls how no one has ever managed to defeat the boss since the game's launch. The battlefield roars to life, and Song remembers how everyone has come to call him the immortal overlord of the gaming world. He summons his own attack from where he stands. He stares ahead and dismisses those so-called legends as mere rumor. 5 years ago, his brother once conquered the same boss back during the game's closed beta, taking him only a week to clear it. But after that victory, his brother vanished without a trace. No one knows what happened, yet deep inside, he feels the truth is hidden within this very game. That's why he keeps returning, taking on the Immortal King, again and again, no matter how many tries it takes. Each of his attacks carries the same vow that he must defeat the one who holds the answers. His resolve echoes through a burst of impact. Smoke fills the air and swirls around. From within the haze, the Immortal King reemerges as he ascends into his second phase. Time passes, and the battle drags into its 5th hour as the clash continues. He dashes across the air as he delivers a strike on the boss. Song pants heavily, his breath ragged from exhaustion. He can barely stay conscious, realizing this is the longest he's ever survived. The boss's body sways, yet the faint glow in its core refuses to fade. The boss mutters in disbelief, unable to land a single decisive strike. The Immortal King bursts into laughter, mocking Song's mortal weakness and declaring his supremacy. His fury ignites as he screams, consumed by rage and madness. The Immortal King charges forward, reaching out with crackling hands to crush his opponent. Song looks up in confusion, frozen as something shifts in the air. Despite the chaos around him, a strange calm settles over his mind. He recognizes the sensation instantly, something he hasn't felt in years. His eyes sharpen with realization that he's found an opening. He dashes like a spear of light. He grips his sword tightly, convinced that this is the moment to unleash his strongest technique. His attack tears across the battlefield, cutting through the boss consecutively. He lands on the ground before rushing forward with a blinding arc of his final strike. The blade cuts through the air and spirals violently. The Immortal King's silhouette flickers, his form breaking apart under the force of the strike. When the light fades, Song stands in the aftermath, his sword lowered. The victory flashes on screen as the global chat erupts with disbelief and cheers, hailing it as the world's first perfect clear. Sitting before his monitor, he stares blankly, drenched in sweat, unable to believe that he actually won. He recalls his years of isolation, trapped in a cramped room while others dismissed him as a failure, even his parents. But through it all, he endured, determined to uncover the mystery behind this cursed game. Suddenly, his screen flickers red, displaying a strange burning symbol. From the distorted image, a figure begins to emerge. The figure materializes and asks if Song truly wishes to find him. Song's eyes widen in shock as he recognizes the face of his long-lost brother. Overcome with emotion, he shouts at the screen, demanding to know where his brother has been all this time. His brother smirks and asks him again. Song realizes that something is terribly wrong. A sinister light flashes in his brother's eye, promising that by entering the trial of the Immortal King, he'll find the truth. Song looks down in horror as his body starts to fade. Panic takes over as he screams for answers, demanding the return of his real brother. His rage hardens as he curses, declaring that if it's a trial it wants, he'll face it head-on. The game engulfs him completely, dragging his body into the screen. Darkness follows, and his faint voice echoes in pain as he regains consciousness somewhere unknown. The faint light of the cave reveals a fur-covered arm lying motionless on the ground. The silence is broken by a faint hiss that echoes through the cavern walls. He stirs, groaning in confusion as he awakens to the damp, suffocating air and the stench of decay. His gaze locks onto his own furred limb, questioning if it's a monkey's hand he's seeing. Slowly, he lifts his hand, examining the long claws in disbelief. Realization dawns as he sees wings and a tail sprouting from his body, panic rising at the sight. He looks over its new form, disgusted by his transformation into a bat-like monkey. Memories flash of the defeat of the Immortal King, the mysterious man who looked like his brother, and the promise of the Immortal King's trial that pulled him into the screen. He pieces it together, realizing he has somehow been transported inside the game itself. Surveying the cavern walls, he recognizes it as a scene from the game but despises the weak form he's trapped in. A sound from above interrupts his thoughts. He analyzes his surroundings, Realizing his placement makes him the bait in some kind of trap for the bat monkeys hidden. Suspicion sharpens his gaze as he wonders who the real target of the ambush might be. A sudden surge of hostility grips the air, forcing his instincts to flare as he senses a presence. The dark tunnel ahead begins to stir. A figure emerges from the shadows, grinning wickedly as it spots him and mocks his appearance. Before he can think, he lets out a sharp hiss and realizes that the enemy before him is truly dangerous. The creature sneers with amusement, mocking how Song dares to challenge him. Emerging from the shadows, another beast emerges, muttering about hunger and meat. He devours a piece of what he's holding and chews on it. Watching in shock, Song realizes the horror of what he's seeing and understands that the beast genuinely intends to eat him next. The two figures stand together while Song glares, trying to anticipate their next move. Elsewhere within the cave, another creature mutters at their recklessness. He rests on a cage, warning that the cave is a trap and urging the others to hurry. Song looks inside the cage and sees golden light spilling out as the golden matriarch holds her child tightly. Memories resurface, and Song recalls that in the game, this event began when a hunter captured her, leading to a massacre. He realizes this is the exact moment, and without interference, the bat tribe will be slaughtered just as in the story. He looks up as a swarm of bat monsters descends. He shouts for them to stop, realizing they are rushing straight into danger. His warning goes unheard as the swarm charges toward the intruders with blind fury. The large brute laughs with excitement, spinning his weapon wildly as he barrels forward. His grin widens with madness as he raises his blade for a strike. Song's eyes widen as he senses the overwhelming danger approaching. The attack crashes toward him, and he barely dodges, tumbling across the ground. Gritting his teeth, he leaps back into motion, frustrated that no one is listening to his warnings. He realizes that one wrong hit from that monstrous blade would crush him completely. The brute swings again, sending another wave in his way. The enemy's companions observe the chaos, one urging the brute to end it while the other marvels at Song's speed. The laughing brute refuses to hurry, thrilled to have an opponent he can toy with for once. Song clenches his teeth, furious that the enemy treats him like an act of entertainment. His eyes sharpen as another attack comes. He leaps aside just in time, narrowly avoiding the sweeping attack. His eyes dart toward a weapon nearby, and he reaches for it. He channels energy for a counterattack. He grips the weapon tightly, confidence returning as he readies himself, but his confidence falters when the brute appears behind him. With a roar, Song retaliates and launches his most potent attack straight at the brute closing in. The blow lands as the brute's eyes go blank. Then, suddenly, his lips curl into a grin, eyes gleaming with twisted amusement. Song stares in disbelief, realizing his attack did nothing. A new wave of power erupts, heavier and sharper than before. Song braces himself and realizes this isn't like the game at all. Song is thrown across the battlefield, the world spinning as the impact throws him off balance. He is sent flying far away until he crashes into a wall with a loud thud. He huffs and realizes how hard that strike landed. His body refuses to move, and panic occurs as he wonders if his spine is broken. Another motion of a weapon builds in the distance, signaling another attack on the way. He screams at himself to move as the enemy's strike barrels toward him again. In a dark room, a faint light flickers, and a figure slowly lifts its head from the ground. Song jolts awake in terror, screaming as he clutches his neck, thinking his head is gone. He frantically touches his face in disbelief, realizing his head is still attached. His breathing slows as he sits back down, trying to convince himself it was just a dream. He stares at the glowing sphere in the center, its light reflecting off ancient statues that seem to watch him. Realization dawns on him as he looks up at the ceiling, wondering if this is the afterlife. He notices hooded figures nearby and questions if they were brought here like him. A thought strikes him mid-observation, snapping his focus into sharp certainty. His eyes dart around, counting the figures and piecing together their identical stillness. Confusion sets in when he fails to spot his older brother among them, doubt creeping into his mind. Before he can process further, a voice mocks him from behind, calling him inexperienced. His eyes widen as he turns toward the source, realizing the speaker isn't human. A talking rat scolds him for dying too soon, and he throws Song as pain shoots through his body. Song lies half buried in the debris, groaning in agony while clutching at his aching limbs. He glares upward, shouting in disbelief after being kicked across the ground. The rat declares himself master of this world as he floats, warning Song to show respect. Song steadies himself and recognizes the voice as the same one that pretended to be his brother. Song demands answers with desperation as he asks where his brother is. The rat ignores the question, instead asking if Song even knows why he's here. Confused, Song snaps back, but the rat calmly explains that only by becoming the immortal king can he reunite with his brother. Then the rat smirks, reminding him that he already failed by dying once, disqualifying him from the title. Song freezes, eyes wide with shock as the words sink in. Song blames himself for his weakness and admits that he lost focus when it mattered most, failing both the game and his brother. The rat watches him in silence, revealing that it has granted him another chance out of mercy. The rat gestures toward the distance, telling Song to turn around and look behind. Song glances back, finding 3 flickering torches mounted on the wall, each symbolizing a single life. The rat explains that one flame has already gone out from his earlier death, and when the last 2 vanish, there will be no returning. The boy's eyes widen with realization as he counts what remains and shouts in awe that he still has 2 chances left. The rat cuts him off, warning Song not to relax so easily, for this trial is brutal enough to grant only 3 lives in total. The rat says that when all torches die, Song's soul will be claimed entirely. Song sits still for a moment, sweat dripping as he absorbs the threat. Then, with a sharp grin, he declares that he isn't afraid and that his only goal is to save his brother. He vows to deal with whatever comes next once his brother is safe. The rat smirks approvingly, amused by his newfound determination. A sudden burst of light forms behind the rat, signaling the appearance of a gateway in the air. The rat announces that the portal of rebirth has opened and that it will send him back to the cave where his journey began. Finally, the rat's face turns dark and ominous as it commands him not to fail again. A beam of light engulfs Song, spiraling outward as the portal beneath his feet activates. The golden energy shoots upward into the portal of rebirth. Song is then transported to the cave where he was last defeated. Song gasps for air, eyes gleaming with disbelief and triumph, as he realizes his resurrection is real. He looks toward the dark tunnel ahead, recalling how the intruders once escaped through that same path. His thoughts race, fearing they might return with reinforcements if he does nothing. Determination sharpens his expression as he decides to act before it's too late. His foot slams against the ground. Wings unfold from his back as he soars into motion, vowing to confront the hunters again. He dives through the twisting tunnels, planning to use the bat monkey's abilities to his advantage and trap his enemies forever within the cave. The stout beast cuts through a group of bat monkeys rushing to him. Bodies of the bat monkeys lie on the floor as he sits on top of their bodies. He turns and talks to the golden matriarch while mocking the persistence of the bat monkeys. The stout beast drags the golden matriarch up by the hair, demanding answers angrily. He grins at the blocked cave entrance, mocking the failed attempt to trap them. The golden matriarch stays silent, her expression unreadable. The stout beast clicks his tongue, growing impatient with the lack of response. He turns to the taller beast, allowing him to play with a little monkey. A monstrous smile spreads across the other beast's face, his eyes filled with twisted delight. The golden matriarch turns sharply, realizing what they're talking about. She shouts a warning, urging the tall beast to stay away from the carriage she was in. The tall beast approaches the matriarch's baby as she cries for him not to come closer. He steps from the dark, his grin spreading as he calls for the child to come closer. The baby smiles innocently, unaware of the threat before him. The tall beast lunges, jaws wide open to strike. The golden matriarch stomps the ground in rage, screaming for the beast to stop. Suddenly, wind howls through the tunnels. Song arrives and swiftly moves through the cave, intercepting the beast's actions. The tall beast lifts its head in surprise. He screams in agony, clutching his face as he realizes his mouth is torn apart. The beast stumbles back, while the other one questions how Song could still be alive. Song crouches beside the baby golden matriarch, while the stout beast recalls a monster he once faced that also refused to die. The stout beast's tone shifts to indifference as it decides the reason doesn't matter, preparing to fight harder this time. He calls out to Song, taunting it to come closer. Song charges seemingly straight into the beast's weapon. He quickly ducks down to dodge the strike of the beast, noting that the characteristic of a bat monkey is speed. Song also pointed out that a white bat monkey's speed is far greater than normal, which is why they are used as bait. Song thinks that if he can use his body well, he could achieve victory over the beast. The stout beast is left shocked as claw marks are left on its shoulders. Song narrows his eyes, noting how resilient his enemy's body is. The stout beast laughs darkly, mocking the attempt and pointing out their vast difference in strength. The beast grins widely, thrilled by the idea of a prolonged fight and ready to enjoy the struggle. Song's gaze sharpens, his focus unwavering amid the taunts. Song declares that he'll give his opponent all the thrill he craves, leaving spiraling attacks as he moves through the air. The beast stands still, weapon still in hand. As his body shreds part by part, he lets out a grunt after the attacks. The beast raises its blade high, summoning its remaining strength for a counterattack. Song swiftly jumps backward as the beast's weapon slams to the ground. Song slides backwards as he lands from jumping to dodge the attack. Song observes calmly, analyzing his opponent's clumsy swings and sluggish pace. He compares it to the final boss he once faced, but decided not to, since the beast is just a brute. The beast seems exhausted as he complains that their battle is pissing him off. He roars, furious at being toyed with, and demands a real fight. Song's eyes glint coldly as he accepts the challenge. Song quickly rushes and surrounds the beast with strikes, disarming the beast while continuing to strike. The beast, left with no weapon, is forced to block the attacks with his arms. The beast grits its teeth while suffering the pain of the endless blows. Song continues to attack, leaving the beast with no escape. As the final blow comes, the beast shouts in pain as it can no longer block the attack. The stout beast collapses to its knees, groaning as Song's silhouette looms behind it. The beast's body crashes face first into the ground as it was defeated. The two remaining beasts watch the aftermath, the tall one confused, while the lady beast mocks the stout's defeat. The stout beast lies face down, demanding its allies stop mocking it and lend their aid. The lady beast kneels with its weapon on its back and agrees to help its ally. She suddenly spins and hurls her weapon towards Song, spinning frantically. Song watches the weapon pass by him. The stout beast's eye widens in shock and worry. The weapon lands on his face and instantly smashes him. The weapon stumbles away as the lady beast bursts into laughter, apologizing mockingly for striking its supposed ally. It then shifts tone, proposing peace now that their leader has fallen, offering to return the golden matriarch. Song considers the beast's words and calmly agrees, seeing no reason to continue the fight. He steps forward and asks for a small favor. He reminisces about his old gaming days, recalling his comfort with great swords and the simple thrill of cutting down bosses. His hand grips the blade firmly as he calls out to his two opponents. He lunges swiftly as he asks them to indulge him in a bit of practice. His smile fades as he declares this match will only end in death. The two beasts react, shouting as they launch themselves toward him. The tall beast charges headfirst with a monstrous roar, his teeth bared wide. Song meets the attack, his blade flashing faster than sight. A single swing tears through the air, striking the tall beast squarely in the chest. The impact sends shockwaves through the battlefield. The lady beast kneels as it prepares to throw its weapon once again. Its confidence shatters as its ally's body falls after a single blow. It freezes for a moment, eyes widening as it senses something approaching fast. A blinding flash bursts in front of it, which it blocked with the swing of its weapon. It echoes with rage as it swings back, the explosion scattering debris around it. It charges through the smoke, insulting Song for still trying to ambush it. Dust settles as it sees that its weapon had not hit its target. Its rage intensifies as it repeats its insults, slamming its weapon into the ground. The knife lands on the wall, and the lady realizes too late that it was a trap. She scans the haze, recognizing that Song used the knives as a distraction before vanishing into the smoke. Song appears behind her with his wings prepared to cut the beast's neck. Trying to mask the lady beast's fear, it attempts to negotiate. Song instantly refuses the offer and prepares to finish the fight. He quickly sliced through the beast, declaring that it would last here forever. Song walks away as the bodies of the three beasts lie defeated on the floor. Song stands motionless, his gaze steady. The rat-like master of the world descends from above, praising Song's swift success. The master observes the fallen enemies with admiration, remarking on Song's ruthless precision. He concludes that someone like Song must have killed before, his composure far beyond that of an ordinary fighter. Song looks down at the fallen bodies, questioning if he truly killed them as part of the game's rules. A faint grin crosses his face as he shifts the blame to the rat who created this world. The rat's eyes narrow as it senses something different in Song, a subtle shift in his demeanor. The piercing eyes of Song lock with the master's in amusement. The rat's pupils constrict in alarm as danger approaches. With a crazed expression and overwhelming speed, Song lunges forward, shouting his intent to defeat the rat. The master's eyes narrow as a blade pierces through its body. Song's attack cleaves clean through. Laughing wildly, Song mocks the heavens, boasting of his victory and the fallen emissary. His grin widens as he taunts the unseen immortal king, daring him to face him directly. The rat's voice echoes again, its tone colder as he calls Song an ignorant mortal. It reveals its true nature, declaring that it serves neither king nor lowly rank. Crimson tendrils erupt from the ground, twisting around Song as the master calls upon its power. The red mass expands into a monstrous arm, claiming the strike to be nothing more than a soft gesture. The massive clawed hand descends and casts a shadow over Song. Song's expression tightens as he braces himself for the devastating impact. The gigantic red force crashes into the earth. The master hovers above the devastation, smugly commenting on its attack while acknowledging Song's resilience. Buried under rubble, Song clenches his teeth, seething in frustration at his defeat. He glares upward, vowing revenge and swearing he'll repay the strike one day. The golden matriarch appears with her baby in hand, staring with quiet curiosity. Half-conscious, Song mutters bitterly, insisting that the one he saved should show gratitude. The master panics and hastily decides to send Song to the next stage to avoid blame from the immortal king. Suddenly, a monstrous mouth opens wide. The monster devours Song's character, and he shrieks in frustration, lamenting his repeated failures in the game. Slamming his controller, he complains about losing dozens of times without defeating even a single wild dog. Exhausted, he asks his older brother for help, admitting that the game feels impossible. His brother, calm and casual, reminds him that games require patience and strategy, not reckless attacks. The older brother raises a finger confidently, claiming to know the one true secret to victory. Song's eyes light up with excitement, eagerly begging to hear it. With a teasing smile, the older brother reveals that the only way to win is through practice. Suddenly, voices echo in the darkness, calling out to someone named Xing. A loud, commanding man shouts the name repeatedly, and Song wonders who Xing even is. He winces as a hand grips his shoulder painfully, insisting that his name is Song and not Xing. He looks up and sees a crowd of tribal warriors surrounding him. Realization dawns in his eyes as he looks up in alarm. He panics, thinking the hunters are preparing to attack. Fueled by fear and confusion, he lashes out, declaring he won't die without a fight. The man in front of him catches his arm before he can do anything. The man yells furiously, accusing the young man of losing his mind and questioning his loyalty to the team. Song tilts his head, stunned to realize he's apparently part of the same group. He stares at his own hands in disbelief, discovering his body is human again. Looking around, he recognizes the landscape and begins to recall where he is. He identifies the area as Broken Cliff Valley, home of the hunters. Gazing up at the sky, he confirms his suspicion that he has indeed transmigrated again. The captain scolds him harshly for daydreaming on his first patrol, threatening punishment once they return. He returns a weapon to Song. Another guard encourages him to work harder and warns him not to upset the captain again. A red banner flutters in the wind beneath a clear sky. A scout waves the signal flag from the mountaintop, alerting the others to approaching danger. One of the hunters notices the movement and quickly informs the captain about the signal ahead. The subordinate panics as he recognizes the warning, shouting that the wolf tribe is attacking. The captain remains composed, issuing orders for all teams to prepare for battle. Song looks toward the horizon, muttering in confusion at the mention of wolves. A cloud of dust rises in the distance as a thunderous stampede draws closer, signaling the wolves' arrival. A pack of monstrous fish wolves charges through the canyon, their fins slicing the air. The captain narrows his eyes, counting only 3 of the beasts approaching. He immediately rallies the squad, ordering them to strike before the creatures get closer. Massive arrows are loosed into the sky. The bolts rain down upon the advancing wolves. A wolf lunges forward, its jaws snapping as the captain braces against the impact. The beast's mouth opens wide, only to be met by the glint of crossing blades. The captain's eyes sharpen with focus. The wolf is sent tumbling back. Another soldier is knocked aside as the beast charges through the ranks, throwing the formation into chaos. Panic spreads as the creature veers off toward the ballista unit. The captain shouts for Song to intercept before it escapes. Song steadies his spear as the charging wolf barrels toward him. He exhales and recalls his own words about strength, realizing effort alone isn't enough without skill. With perfect aim, he dives down, thrusting his weapon into the wolf's exposed weak point. He channels all his strength into a single downward strike, and his spear pierces straight through the wolf's skull. The soldiers watch in disbelief, calling out how Song managed to hit the creature's artery in one blow. Dust clouds the battlefield as they strain to see if the monster has fallen. Their relief turns to panic as the wolf suddenly surges forward, still alive and raging. Song clings to its back and realizes the creature's size makes his spear nearly useless against it. Desperate, he steadies his grip and slams the spear down once more into the beast's head. The strike connects but fails to finish it, leaving him frustrated as his weapon jams mid-blow. The wolf thrashes wildly as the others shout for someone to help. From above, a figure appears to descend. A dark vortex suddenly hurls towards the wolf. The captain charges in and slices through the beast with blinding speed. Dust erupts as he lands, the massive creature collapsing from the force of his strike. The soldiers stare in stunned silence, unable to believe what they just witnessed. Their awe turns into excitement as they cheer for their captain's incredible feat. Song groans, catching his breath as he pushes himself up from the dirt. He looks on in disbelief, realizing the captain decapitated the monster in a single blow. The others rush over to check on him, but Song brushes it off, insisting he's fine. The captain confronts him sternly, scolding him for recklessly jumping into danger. He advises Song to prioritize his own safety and trust his teammates in future fights. The captain gathers the squad's attention, raising his voice as they prepare for what comes next. The captain announces Song's official place in the unit, warning everyone not to mess with him. The group responds in unison, welcoming him with newfound respect. His comrade laughs, teasing him for earning the captain's favor on his first day. The captain orders half the team to stay alert while the rest clean up the battlefield. The men begin to move. Song looks at the corpse and reminds himself that only the strong survive in this land of immortal kings. As the horizon burns orange, He vows to adapt quickly or be left behind. Over the ravine, the unit starts collecting the remains of the slain creatures. Song remembers all the battles he's fought in this gorge. Flames engulf the memory of war, with beasts and hunters locked in a deadly struggle. His gaze hardens as a familiar unease creeps in, fearing this new mission might lead him into another trap. The unit returns to base at sunset, announcing their victory as the gates slowly open. Song looks ahead, taking in the view of the settlement, basked in golden light. The captain reports the skirmish's outcome, commending the team for returning safely. Villagers gather with excitement, marveling at the fallen beasts and warmly greeting the soldiers. Song observes the lively scene, struck by how alive this world feels compared to his memories. His gaze shifts as he spots the captain reuniting tenderly with his wife. A young girl rushes into her father's arms. Watching them, Song feels a quiet ache, knowing their peace won't last if events unfold as the game dictates. His young comrade beside him dreams aloud of having a loving family like their captain's. Song nods faintly, admitting to himself that a complete and happy family is the kind of life he longs for too. Song freezes mid-thought as his teammate suddenly reminds him of something shocking. His eyes widen in disbelief as he blurts out, confused and alarmed by the claim that he has a wife. His comrade stares back, unsure if Song hit his head too hard in battle, or if this is just another one of his odd reactions. The three men stop in front of a small round hut as his comrade announces they've arrived. They tell him this is his house before turning to leave casually. He panics as they walk away, pleading for them to stay, but they ignore his cries with teasing remarks. Alone and nervous, he admits to himself that he doesn't have the courage to step inside. He confesses inwardly that he's terrible at talking to girls and barely ever interacts with women. Now, the sudden idea of having a wife overwhelms him, and the panic worsens as he imagines the implications of sharing a bed. He freezes in horror, realizing what that might mean, his face draining of all color. The door creaks open, and a woman steps out, breaking his frantic thoughts. Her calm voice cuts through his panic, asking why he's just standing there. Song stammers and scratches his head nervously. The woman orders him to face her properly, leaving him blushing and scrambling to obey. As he turns around, his eyes widen in shock the moment he sees her. He freezes in awe, completely captivated by her beauty. She calmly urges him to come inside. A candle flickers inside the house, and their shadows move on the wall as he nervously questions what's happening. Panic rises as glowing hands reach toward him, leaving him utterly confused. His thoughts spiral as her hands start to move slowly down. A loud smack breaks the moment as he yells out in surprise. The tension vanishes when an older woman, his grandmother, cheerfully praises his physique. His wife smiles warmly, relieved that he's safe, and invites him to eat. Song reflects awkwardly, realizing the old woman was probably checking his injuries by touch, and admits it's been a long time since he's felt that kind of closeness. A sudden yell echoes from the small hut. Inside, his wife proudly presents a feast prepared in celebration of his first day as a guard, leaving him stunned and overjoyed at the sight of a roasted pig on the table. With chopsticks in hand and a wide grin, he dives into the feast, ready to eat to his heart's content. She clears her throat softly, reminding him to keep his manners in check. Slightly embarrassed, he slows down, mumbling that she's a bit too strict. His wife turns to his grandmother and feeds her caringly. Warm light glows from the window as the three share a quiet dinner together. Under the sky, memories stir in Song's mind as he remembers his own family meals. He recalls how everything changed after his brother disappeared, leaving only shouting and resentment in his wake. The weight of it all tore the family apart. Surrounded by trash and empty cans, he wonders when he last sat down to enjoy an authentic meal. Back in the present, his hands tremble slightly as he eats. Frustration boils over as he slams the table, snapping his chopsticks in anger. Without hesitation, he storms out into the night, leaving the warm glow of the house behind. Inside, the grandmother looks puzzled as she wonders why her grandson left so suddenly. The wife smiles faintly, assuring her that he'll return soon. Out in the cold night, he runs through the rocky paths, cursing himself for losing focus. He stops to catch his breath, scanning the village for a way out and thinking of how trapped he feels. His eyes dart around, realizing the only exits are the large fortified gates guarding the town. He finally spots the massive wooden gate looming ahead. He stares up at its towering height, realizing it's far more imposing than he remembered. He wonders what awaits him beyond the walls and what path he should take next. Desperation fuels him as he starts climbing the towering gate, determined to escape no matter the cost. A voice suddenly calls out from the darkness, warning him to reconsider his reckless plan. A man sits casually atop a rock, mocking as he warns about the dangers lurking beyond the mountains. Song glares up, demanding to know who this stranger is and what he's doing here. The mysterious figure smiles playfully, pretending to be amused by the question. Without warning, he leaps down from his perch. He lands firmly on the ground as he mocks the boy for daring to ask his name. With a knowing grin, he reveals that he's been expecting him all along, calling him a player. Blue flames burst to life around the stranger. Song stares in disbelief, trying to figure out if his opponent is some kind of cultivator. Realizing he's outmatched, he darts toward the gate, desperate to escape. The man appears beside him in a blur, amused that he's trying to run so soon. Song raises his hand, gathering energy for a counterattack. The stranger grins as the palm strike lands, barely fazed by the attempt. With mocking precision, he corrects Song's form mid-battle. He then demonstrates his version of a true strike, slamming Song into the ground. The impact echoes through the night as Song's body hurls. Dazed and flattened, Song groans in disbelief, calling out the man's obvious lie about the move. The man scratches his head with mock concern, pretending to worry about hitting too hard while Song groans on the ground. He then smiles disarmingly, introducing himself as the village chief and claiming to guide players like him. The boy's eyes widen in disbelief as he realizes the person who just flattened him is the chief himself. Under the moonlit sky, the two sit atop a cliff as Song complains that he thought the man was another player. The chief explains that he recognized him after hearing about his fight with the fish wolves earlier that day. Song admits he remembers a different chief, recalling an older man with a catfish-like mustache. The chief calmly explains that the game world he knew is not the same as this one, as time flows differently here. The boy listens closely, puzzled by the mention of how long it's been since his last memory. The chief suddenly remembers, noting that the man he's describing lived over a century ago. The chief blurts out the realization that more than 100 years have passed since then. He realizes the time difference between worlds is massive, and the thought of finding his brother now feels almost impossible. The chief chuckles lightly, teasing him before changing the subject with a curious question about his past trials. Song blinks, confused by the unfamiliar term. The chief smiles knowingly, clarifying that he meant life or death experiences and asking how many he has faced. Song recalls his first one vividly in the Bat Monkey Cave. He tells the chief that this is his second one. He declares that he's ready to face his second death trap and asks for guidance on the Immortal King's trial. The chief waves it off casually, saying it's his duty to explain everything he knows. He then begins to describe the trial, where one must enter the bodies of others to relive and survive the deadly situations they endured. The chief explains that every time one survives a death trap, their soul grows stronger, gaining divine powers and magical rewards. He warns with a cheerful tone that failing to escape or dying means instant failure, and the consequences are obvious. Sitting side by side, the chief asks if the boy can guess what his next death trap might be. Song thinks back to the game's storyline and his eyes widen in realization as he blurts out the name of the White Wolf King. He reflects on the game's plot, remembering that the village was doomed to be wiped out by fish wolves, but with him in the mix, that massacre shouldn't happen, unless the White Wolf King appears. The chief notices his uneasy expression and asks if the coming challenge is truly that dangerous. Song hesitates before voicing his guilt, wondering if their arrival has brought ruin to this world. The chief smiles, reframing the thought as fate, instead of that perhaps they were sent to help prevent disaster. He turns to Song and commands him to stand as one of the guards, promising to face any death trap together. Watching him, Song can't help but smile, thinking the chief's optimism reminds him of his older brother. The two laugh together under the night sky, agreeing to look out for one another from now on. Their laughter fades when the chief suddenly freezes. Alarmed, he shouts for Song to cover his ears quickly. A violent energy erupts across the mountains, and the chief warns of an arrival. Song's expression shifts from confusion to dread as the energy distorts his vision. The mountains tremble as echoes of thunder and movement ripple through the valley. The tremors grow louder, and strange orbs begin falling from above. When the noise finally fades, both men are left catching their breath, shaken but alive. The chief explains it comes from a necro bird imprisoned nearby. The chief tells Song it's getting late and starts heading back, reminding him to rest for tomorrow's training. Despite his protests and lingering questions, the chief waves goodbye and disappears into the night. Left alone under the moonlight, Song gazes at the sky, wondering if he really has to face the coming death trap, realizing how much more real and terrifying this world feels compared to the game. He whispers the name of his next trial, the White Wolf King. With determination in his eyes, he vows not to die by that creature's hands, promising to prove his strength. The night sky looms silent and cold above the mountains. Song's wife sits quietly, asking if the test has ended. A voice answers her from outside, reporting that the boy is naive and inexperienced. The report continues, describing him as harmless and far from being a real threat. Pleased by the news, the woman thanks her subordinate for the update. As she relaxes in the warm water, she muses to herself that there's no need to kill the player, at least not yet. A week passes, and Song grows accustomed to life in the village, slowly adapting to his new body. His rest is interrupted by a sudden tremor that jolts him awake. He groans in annoyance as a familiar morning argument erupts outside. The chief's wife storms through the village, furious at her husband for sneaking out again. Her rage only intensifies as she accuses him of reeking of perfume and unleashes her wrath. The terrified chief realizes he has no escape from her fury. Her attack lands and sends the chief flying away. Watching from afar, Song can only sigh at the chaos unfolding. He mutters to himself that the village chief's wife is far scarier than any necrobird. Just as he thinks the commotion is over, his wife enters the room, quietly telling him to get up. She reminds him that it's his turn to guard the village and urges him to head to the mountains early. The town operates with 2 rotating guard teams, each taking shifts every 10 days. While some keep watch, the others undergo rigorous physical training to stay sharp. The training begins with mountain runs and grueling sets of weighted push-ups. They continue with post-striking drills. Finally, it's time for sparring practice among team members, and Song faces a towering opponent who greets him cheerfully, leaving him nervous. She warns him not to go easy on her, smiling confidently as he realizes who she is. It dawns on him that his sparring partner is none other than the village chief's wife. Frustrated, he complains that they must have set him up on purpose. The captain laughs, explaining that she's the only woman on their team, and he was paired with her since he's new. The match begins, and she steps forward eagerly, while Song hesitates, dreading what's to come. The chief's wife grows impatient and decides to strike first, launching herself toward him with confidence. Song's eyes widen as he recognizes the stance. She charges forward with explosive force, shaking the ground as she closes in. Song barely dodges as the impact leaves a crater where he once stood. He stares in disbelief, realizing her sheer strength could flatten an ordinary person. Before he can recover, a massive fist hurtles toward him from above. He freezes, unable to react as her relentless assault continues. A flurry of blows rains down on him, each strike faster than the last. He steadies himself, analyzing her rhythm and speed as he begins to adapt. But his confidence falters when he suddenly senses something unexpected approaching. The chief's wife unleashes a devastating blow she calls the wrecking ball, catching Song completely off guard. The impact lands squarely on his face, sending him flying through the air. His body hurtles across the field as his teammates scatter in panic to avoid him crashing into them. The group watches in shock, unsure if he'll survive such a powerful hit. The chief's wife narrows her eyes, while the captain expresses disappointment. Buried in the dirt, Song lies motionless as they assume he'll be out for days. But moments later, he groans as he rises, furious at how much it actually hurt. The chief's wife praises his endurance and asks if he's ready to continue. Song accepts, but first decides to ask her a question before resuming the match. He asks how many fish wolves she could handle on her own, confusing her with the sudden topic. She admits she could barely take on one, and that only their captain could fight such a beast alone. Song grins to himself, realizing he still has a long way to go before facing the White Wolf King, and decides this is the perfect moment to measure how far his current strength can take him. Catching his breath, he thanks the woman for answering his question, preparing for another round. He cheerfully declares that once he beats her, his next target will be the captain. The woman looks stunned, while the captain stares back in disbelief, wondering if the kid is serious. The others whisper among themselves, confirming that they heard him challenge the captain. Outraged, the onlookers shout at him for being too arrogant and urge the chief's wife to teach him a lesson. From afar, the others hear screams echoing from the mountains. They hear the commotion and assume the mountain training ground is in chaos. Their leader, Yang, orders some men to store their recent hunt while the rest follow him to investigate. They arrive back at the battlefield and see the chief's wife. Yang's expression hardens as he senses something unexpected. He sees the chief's wife staggering, and he can only gasp in disbelief that she's starting to lose. Her eyes flare with fury, her composure cracking as anger takes over. Enraged, she launches herself at Song with blinding speed, shouting at him in frustration as she descends for another attack. The chief's wife lunges at Song with a furious yell, her entire body twisting midair as she prepares to strike. Song smirks confidently, his eyes glinting as he readies his next move. With precise timing, he counters, landing a direct blow that cuts through her momentum. The impact sends a violent shockwave as he darts away. She accuses him of fighting dirty after he cleverly uses sand to blind her. Composed once more, she vows to teach him a painful lesson. Before she can act, he lands another clean hit to her face. The two exchange blows in rapid succession as spectators whisper in disbelief. The captain watches from afar, realizing Song is fighting purely on instinct, unaware of any sparring rules. He narrows his gaze, recognizing that while Song's tactics are unconventional, his drive to win mirrors that of someone who has faced real monsters. The woman channels her strength into a furious charge, roaring as the ground shakes beneath her. Song moves even quicker and dodges her blows with ease. Song narrows his eyes as he braces for the impact. With perfect timing, he slips past her attack, drawing gasps from the crowd as they realize he avoided it entirely. He darts across the arena, moving too fast for anyone to follow. The woman spins, confused and furious, scanning the dust for any sign of him. In an instant, he appears behind her, launching forward with explosive speed. The onlookers cheer in surprise, realizing he's circling behind her to strike. He dives low, sweeping her into a spinning grapple. She realizes too late that he's using a locking technique to drag her down. With a powerful slam, he drives her into the ground. Song locks his grip tighter and strains with all his strength, twisting her arm as the sound of joints popping fills the air. The woman screams in pain, frantically yielding as she realizes her arm is about to break. A horn sounds across the arena, signaling the end of the match. The referee declares Song the winner, his name echoing through the training grounds. Song laughs proudly, but the captain reminds him that victory came through cleverness, not raw power. Unfazed, Song challenges for another round. The captain watches in quiet amusement, thinking of how Song reminds him of his younger self. A voice echoes, calling Song a good kid. Yang approaches, amused by Song's boldness to challenge his superior. He mocks the older captain, teasing that age must finally be catching up to him. The captain glares back, warning Yang to stay out of his business, firing back with a jab about the man's graying hair. A burst of laughter echoes, loud and mocking. Yang taunts the captain, mocking how age and softness have dulled his once fierce edge. He boasts about his recent hunt, claiming to have slain 8 beasts, while laughing arrogantly. His laughter is abruptly silenced as something strikes the back of his head. He whirls around in outrage, demanding to know who dared hit him. Another sudden smack lands, making him stumble in disbelief. Song grins mischievously between 2 soldiers, pretending innocence while provoking the angry man. Enraged, the man accuses Song of insolence, while the others hold him back with amusement. Yang complains to the captain, calling Song's group undisciplined and rude. The captain smirks, suggesting that Yang himself teach the newcomer a lesson. Realizing the setup, Yang scowls to himself, cursing the captain for trying to trick him into training his soldiers. Another strike lands squarely on the man's head, leaving him momentarily frozen in disbelief. Enraged, he draws his blade, vowing to teach the insolent brat a lesson. The captain watches with mild surprise, realizing that Yang is actually serious. With a roar, the man charges forward, his sword glowing with energy. Song stiffens as the attack comes faster than he expected. He throws up his hand, yelling for the man to stop. The captain watches in silence and confusion at the sight. Song reaches for a sword behind him. Yang mocks Song with a loud laugh, calling him a coward and comparing him to his captain. He continues to taunt, pointing at Song and jeering that the captain's team 1 is full of weaklings. The captain sighs to himself, realizing Song's antics have dragged the situation too far and feeling embarrassed by the scene. Song reaches for Yang's hand and tries to calm him down a bit. Song grins mischievously and demands a great sword, clearly ready to take the fight up a notch. The other hunters wonder why he would ask for such a blade when he's known for wielding a spear. A giant sword slams into the ground before Song. The captain casually offers his own weapon, reminding Song not to embarrass him in the fight. Song examines the sword silently, and the captain questions whether the blade isn't good enough for his taste. Song points at the sword and shouts for a replacement that is big and long enough for him. The soldiers around them laugh and tease, turning Song's words into innuendo, while the captain sighs in disbelief. A massive man steps forward, carrying an enormous blade on his back, and offers it to Song instead. Song proudly accepts it, marveling at its sheer size while being warned of its weight. The moment Song grabs it, the force overwhelms him, yelling in surprise as the heavy blade pulls him down. He struggles to keep hold of the massive sword as the others laugh at his clumsy attempt. Yang mocks his effort, suggesting he give up since he can barely lift the weapon. Song steadies himself, thanking the man who lent it, but the man second-guesses his decision. The crowd watches as he prepares a strange stance. Song lowers his body and grips the hilt behind his back, holding the sword in an unorthodox way. Recognition flashes across the captain's face as he mutters in surprise. With a confident grin, Song declares himself ready and challenges Yang to attack. Yang freezes, shocked that Song is taunting him and offering the first move. Furious, Yang charges forward, shouting as Song braces his stance. Song twists his body and swings the massive blade in a spinning motion. The rotation builds into a blinding whirlwind. Yang lifts his sword in defense, bracing himself as the roaring spiral bears down on him. Yang struggles to keep up, realizing Song's speed leaves him no room to close the distance. The hunters are in disbelief as they see Yang being pushed back, and one of them shouts in protest, mocking the defensive tactics being used in the fight. The first squad responds by smugly asking them to do something about it while the fight continues. Hunters argue that the second captain is helpless and that there's a weapon disadvantage, while also pointing out that Song would be dizzy soon. Song keeps spinning confidently despite the warnings, and Yang grins as he notices him slowing down. The great sword cleaves through the air, catching the captain off guard. Yang's eyes widen in shock as the glowing blade passes dangerously close. Hunters are questioning how he managed to swing a weapon that heavy so fast, while some accuse him of faking his earlier struggle. As the great sword swings downward, the captain realizes Song kicked the blade mid-swing to accelerate it. Song continues slicing through the air with repeated, powerful strikes. Yang struggles to defend, unable to block the combined force and velocity of the attacks. Yang begins to understand that Song has been using technique and timing rather than strength. The great sword spins once more, disarming Yang completely and sending his blade flying across the arena. The shockwave settles as Song smashes the sword to the ground to stop its motion. Yang stares at his empty hand in disbelief, unable to process that his weapon has been knocked aside, and he realizes that Song possesses a rare, natural talent. Determined not to be humiliated further, Yang sheds his restraint and prepares to fight seriously. He draws hidden blades from his sleeves, his expression hardening as he steps forward. The crowd cheers as they reveal the captain's hidden weapon technique, the twin blades attached to his elbows. The captain glares sharply, silencing their chatter as tension fills the air. From behind, the captain reminds Yang it's only a spar, but Yang's pride burns too fiercely to hold back. With fury in Yang's voice, he unleashes his aura, crouching low as energy surges around him. Song watches silently, sensing the sudden power shift. A heavy pressure envelops him, making it hard to breathe. Song's instincts scream as he visualizes a force towering over him like a giant cobra ready to strike. Yang bursts forward in a blur of speed, launching his attack. A massive spectral serpent lunges forward. Yang's movements blur as he attacks with the glowing trails of his blades, weaving through the air. Song braces himself in frustration, blocking the quick attacks. Yang's eyes burn with intensity as he taunts Song. Song tenses, barely tracking the dark blur. Their clash sends a shockwave as Yang's strike narrowly misses its mark. He laughs as he anticipates what Song is about to do next. Yang counters Song's technique, surprising him to throw off his balance. The impact throws Song backward, his body crashing hard into the dirt. A wave of energy lands just before him. Yang's squad jeers and boasts about the captain's victory while they mock Song. The captain remarks on his narrow escape, realizing how lethal the strike truly was. He realizes that Yang has gone too far. Struggling to catch his breath, Song reflects on how a surge of power saved him at the last minute, making him wonder if the mysterious power came from the original body's host. He studies the energy coursing through him, recognizing its weight and familiarity from the past death trial. Yang taunts him, asking if he's ready to give up, while his squad boasts about his strength. The captain mocks Yang, asking if there's anything to brag about when his sword was also knocked away. Yang kicks the great sword towards Song. Song looks at the sword in front of him, puzzled. Acknowledging the fairness of the situation, Yang invites him to continue their duel. Song's squad acknowledges the disadvantage and insists that Song give up. Yang's squad's laughter grows as they boast about their dominance, which leaves the other team irritated. The great sword digs deep into the ground. Standing tall with renewed confidence, Song grips his weapon and accepts the challenge. Yang stares in disbelief, realizing Song had been holding back all along. A smirk forms as his interest turns into excitement, eager to see the full extent of Song's power. The hunters watch nervously, realizing Yang's anger has reached its peak. The captain realizes that Song might still have more tricks hidden up his sleeve. Yang studies Song's stance, sensing a sudden shift in his demeanor that feels entirely new. He taunts Song with confidence and arrogance, daring him to attack first. Song steadies his breath, assessing his current body and the strange power pulsing within it. He recalls his most decisive move from his victory against the immortal king, wondering if this new form can handle it. Energy erupts as he charges forward, putting everything into one overwhelming strike. His blade arcs through the air in a blinding trail of red light, slicing with immense speed. The attack cuts closer and closer, forcing Yang to brace for impact. The red energy storm engulfs them both. Song pushes through the chaos, driving his attack forward as Yang struggles to defend. Yang ascends into the air to look for an opening. He stumbles right back to the ground when he finds none. Yang realizes every blow is aimed to kill, leaving him no time or space to retaliate. The next strike lands squarely against Yang's guard, forcing a pained grunt as he absorbs the impact. The sword scratches deeply into the ground, and Yang shouts in frustration, accusing Song of exceeding the agreed number of strikes. Song leaps high into the air as he prepares one final, decisive blow. He roars with fierce determination, channeling everything into his descending slash. Yang meets the attack head-on, fury and adrenaline driving him to resist with all his might. Song admits he can only unleash part of the full power of his secret technique for now. Yang freezes before the blade inches away from his face. Song declares his resolve to face the White Wolf King, now that he knows he has a chance. The chief suddenly arrives, reminding them both that the spar has gone far beyond simple training. He suggests they end the duel and call it even. The hunters whisper in awe, realizing even the village chief had to step in to stop the fight. The sound of steel meeting sheath breaks the silence. Yang grumbles about their rival's lack of restraint, though they claim it was for the chief's sake. He looks surprised as Song steps forward and offers his hand. Song thanks him earnestly, acknowledging that the intense battle had taught him more than words ever could. Yang slaps Song's hand, leaving him surprised. He glares upward, refusing to admit it was a draw, and calling Song insolent once more. The captain grabs Song's head forcefully and presses him down. Song's captain acknowledges that had Yang not held back, Song would have been defeated. Both squads bowed deeply, thanking the captain for the lesson and the intense training they have received. The chief applauds, praising their cooperation and unity as a sign of the village's growing strength. With a warm smile, he announces a ritual that night to celebrate their efforts and urges everyone to attend. The hunters cheer with excitement, thrilled about another festival. Song looks puzzled by their enthusiasm, questioning why they're so happy about the sacrifice. His comrade laughs and begins explaining that the ritual isn't what Song might think it is. Later, a clay jar slams onto the ground during the festival. Around the campfire, the hunters celebrate wildly, vowing not to stop drinking until sunrise. The laughter grows louder as they tease one another and raise their cups high. Song chuckles at their antics while quietly enjoying his drink. Lost in thought, he takes a sip from his cup, marveling at how a hidden place like this could exist beneath the village. His gaze lifts to the vast cavern before him, and he remarks in awe that this must be the origin of the village's name. Nearby, the two captains share a calm conversation, acknowledging Song's unexpected skill. Yang jokingly suggests taking Song for himself, earning a sharp refusal. Song, meanwhile, questions why the captains aren't handling the matter they discussed earlier. His comrade explains that the two captains share a complicated past dating back to their youth, marked by rivalry and bitterness that deepened when Song's captain's wife became involved. Yang's voice cut through the laughter, demanding to know if the gossip had finally stopped. The group panics and apologizes loudly as the captain's intimidating presence sends chills down their spines. The ritual begins under the looming red crystal as everyone kneels in reverence before it. The village prospers through mining and trading these stones, which maintain peace in the region. The people treat the crimson crystal like a sacred deity, but the truth is darker, for the stone demands blood to sustain its power. The chief climbs the platform and pours the offering upon the massive crystal. The blood seeps into the red surface, and the crystal pulses and glows fiercely. Soon, the surrounding crystals begin to shimmer and hum in unison. Their glow travels through the tunnels, illuminating the cave. The glowing crystals hanging from the cave ceiling leave the hunters in awe as they admire the breathtaking sight. The captains share a quiet moment, both humbled by the beauty surrounding them. Yang gazes deeply into the red crystal, mesmerized by its brilliance. Incense sticks burn slowly. Offerings are carefully arranged before the crystal, and the hunters line up to pay their respects. The captain kneels before the altar first. One of the hunters calls out to the captain as to why he is leaving so soon, and he replies that he has to go to his family. Yang teases him with a mischievous grin, joking about his wife waiting at home. The captain responds smugly, boasting about the joy of having a family and mocking Yang's single life. The teasing goes too far, and Yang flushes with anger as the others burst out laughing around them. Later, two hunters stand by the entrance, grumbling about missing the festivities while everyone else celebrates. One of them suggests resting since their duty will last until morning. Inside the granary, shadows stir among piles of grain and supplies. The creatures Yang's squad caught earlier lie motionless on the ground. Suddenly, the beast's eye flickers open, revealing multiple glowing red pupils. The monstrous beast stirs violently, its claws tearing through the ground as it rises from its slumber. Its limbs twitch as its body begins to move. Red eyes burn through the darkness, multiplying as the creatures fully awaken. The granary doors are blown apart, and the two hunters lie lifeless on the ground as silence follows the destruction. A shadowy figure steps out from the darkness, muttering in anticipation of what is about to unfold. The figure quickly leaves the scene. Outside a quiet home, the captain's daughter wonders why her father hasn't returned for her birthday. Her mother reassures her gently, suggesting he might be picking out a gift as he always does. The girl brightens up at the thought. A strange noise echoes from outside, catching their attention. In the distance, the captain walks happily, clutching a gift he worked hard to find for his daughter. His wife and daughter wait restlessly, the young girl complaining about his tardiness. The ground shakes violently as a towering beast with burning red eyes descends upon the village. From above their hut, a creature looms over them. The girls look up in shock as the beast lunges violently. The captain's eyes widen as he sees the scene before him. Explosions and attacks echo through the houses. Realization dawns on him in shock when he sees that the village is under attack. He sprints forward in panic, hoping he's not too late. From deep within the cliffs, the massive creature claws its way out, The captain's wife stands before the beast's enormous face. She shouts for her daughter to run and call for help, clutching a weapon in trembling hands. As the child hesitates, the creature lunges forward, slamming into her mother with terrifying force. The girl screams in horror as her mother is thrown to the ground. The woman struggles to breathe as the creature's mouth closes in on her. With one final motion, the monster tosses her up and opens its mouth, ready to devour her. A blur of motion cuts through the air. The captain charges forward, slicing the beast's head clean off. While catching his wife in his arms, he reassures her safety with his presence. She clutches her wounded arm in pain, realizing the bite was covered with poison. As the captain sees it, he realizes that the poison is spreading too fast. With no time to waste, he steels himself and prepares to take drastic action to save her. Her scream echoes through the night as he does what must be done. From behind, he hears a growl. The severed beast twitches violently, making the captain wonder how it's still able to move. He stares in disbelief, recognizing the monster as one they had already slain days before. Horrified, he realizes that if all these resurrected creatures are ones they had once caught, then the entire village is doomed. Back in the festival, the other corrupted beasts stir. The hunters raise their drinks in blissful ignorance. They gather around a fire, laughing and boasting as they challenge each other to drink until only one remains standing. The group gets rowdier, continuing even after throwing up. Away from the noise, Song drinks quietly, amused by how easily the others got drunk on weak liquor. He sits unaware of the beast, preparing to devour him as he remarks on how peaceful the night is. The beast spirals above Song and his comrade. In an instant, blood splatters before him. His eyes widen as his comrade mutters his name. His drunk comrade jokes about Song staying out late, unaware that his arm is already missing. His voice falters as he collapses, while the others laugh drunkenly. The laughter halts as a shadow blurs through the air, slamming into one of the hunters. Confusion spreads as they spot a fish wolf, and the hunters argue in disbelief, trying to convince themselves it must be the alcohol clouding their vision. Suddenly, the clay jar shatters. Song leaps into action, fury blazing in his eyes as he dives toward the beast. His strike lands true, the weapon driving straight into the creature's eye. He launches himself toward the beast, making the creature let go of his comrade. Song yells for the others to wake up and realize they're under attack. The stunned hunters finally react as they turn toward the danger. The fish wolf attempts to strike Song in surprise. One of the hunters intercepts and attacks the monster before it reaches Song. The hunter dives, ready to deliver a blow. The guards ready their weapons as one of them orders everyone to prepare for combat against the revived beast. Panic spreads as others are told to alert the village chief before the situation worsens. The massive creature emerges, surrounded by hunters who are desperately trying to contain it. One of them instructs Song to head outside and check on the situation. The hunter turns to the second squad's member, who insists on staying to fight. Song runs down the tunnel toward the chaos echoing outside. His mind drifts back to his fallen comrades, making him curse in frustration. He realizes the situation has gone far beyond what anyone anticipated, and recognizes it as the start of a deadly game. Memories of his newfound companions flash through his mind as he feels regret for how quickly things turned. The survivors sprint in fear, shouting about the nightmare of the wolf's return and how their recklessness led to disaster. Footsteps arrive, asking who had been attacked just now. The chief's wife reports the death of 2 members, and the hunters lament how young they'd been. The hunter narrows his eyes when he senses something before him. He looks up ahead in the tunnel. The ground trembles as a massive force crashes through the tunnel, causing the hunters to recoil in shock. A hunter collapses in terror as he faces monstrous fangs. Song calls out to them, demanding to know why they'd stopped and urging them to leave now. His words end abruptly as his eyes widen in shock. In the darkness ahead, the towering beast exhales heavily. Hunters stare in horror, paralyzed, as one of them begins to tremble uncontrollably. The creature growls incomprehensibly, its voice twisting between rage and madness. Song's eyes widen in shock as he recognizes the terrifying voice. He yells once again for everyone to get out of the way. The tunnel fills with a chilling echo. A violent gust tears through the passageway. The monstrous limbs whip through the air, striking the hunters and sending them screaming in pain. Song braces himself as the attack barely misses him. 2 enormous beasts emerge from the mist, their eyes locking onto the hunters. They realize in fear that more creatures have appeared and wonder how many have invaded the village. Song calculates the grim situation, knowing they can't escape without dying at the hands of the creature outside. He gazes at the beasts in front of him and decides there's no other way. He resolves that the only way forward is to destroy every one of them first. Meanwhile, back in his house, his grandmother worries about his absence while his wife reassures the old woman, offering to check outside. A wolf looms near, while Song's wife tries to put his grandmother's mind at ease. Suddenly, a loud crash shakes the house, startling both women. In an instant, The creature flies away under a massive force that strikes it. The injured beast whimpers weakly, its body covered in wounds. A glinting spear appears, along with a woman's shadow. The haze clears to reveal Song's wife, standing tall with her weapon in hand. She surveys the destruction, noting the grim situation overtaking the village. She hurtles through the mountains, and a shadow approaches her from below. The chief lands and rushes to report that the slain beasts have revived and are ravaging the village. He tells her that he's been suspicious, which allowed him to take precautions, but he's still unsure whether the town will survive. Song's wife remains composed, assuring him that fate always finds its course. She asks about her husband, and the chief reveals he's still inside the cavern. Her tone turns grave, saying that if this marks the beginning of the death trap, it's far from over. The chief says that survival now depends entirely on Song's luck. Back in the cavern, Song lets out a fierce roar as he faces the beast. He launches himself forward and strikes the beast with a powerful blow. The monster whimpers as it's sent crashing into the ground. The exhausted men stand over the fallen creature, relieved that the relentless battle has finally ended. They remark on how the beasts, though fast, lack true strength and were not as terrifying as they first appeared. The group checks their injuries, realizing that most wounds are shallow and easily manageable. Song notes his own minor injury but grows uneasy. He cowers, sensing that the situation feels suspicious. The hunters decide to regroup, knowing the enormous creature outside still blocks their way while the smaller ones keep reviving. Some speculate that the monsters might be acting with intelligence, possibly feigning death to infiltrate the village. Before they can think further, one of them suddenly screams and vomits uncontrollably. The others stare in confusion before they start to feel the same unease. Song looks around in alarm as everyone begins to throw up. His expression turns rigid as a wave of realization sweeps over him. A sinister pulse beats from deep within, whispers control into their hearts. A guttural scream escapes them as the unseen power takes hold. The others convulse violently, their bodies twisting as corruption overtakes them. Back in the village, screams echo as the fish wolf arrives. A hunter steadies his aim, spotting the racing beast. The commander shouts for his men to raise their shields and brace for impact. The soldiers stand firm, clashing directly with the creature. Torches ignite as they rally together, charging forward with fiery determination. The burning beast erupts in an explosion. From a watchtower, a guard counts the number of beasts sighted, confused when the total doesn't add up to what was reported earlier. Through his telescope, he spots two shapes moving rapidly across the terrain. His eyes widen as he realizes they're heading toward the captain's house. Inside, the captain tends to his injured wife and instructs his young daughter to protect her while he goes to defend the village. The daughter clutches her chest and pleads for him not to leave, trembling at the thought of the fish wolves. He reassures her that protecting the village is his duty as captain and reminds her of his strength. Suddenly, an explosion erupts nearby, forcing him to react immediately. A monstrous fish wolf lunges forward with a violent roar. The captain's eyes blaze with fury as he prepares to strike back. His attack lands squarely on the beast. He delivers a kick to its chest, driving one into the other. With a final surge of strength, he slices through the beasts, leaving them in pieces. Pieces of the beast's remains rain down around him. He stands firm, glaring at the shadow that dares to invade his home. To his disbelief, the creature he had just slain rises again, completely regenerated. The captain freezes as another shadow looms behind him. Two of the beasts rise and howl. Surrounded, he finally understands the nature of his foes. He realizes these monsters can revive no matter how grievous the wound. Nonetheless, he vows to protect his family at all costs. The moon glows as the captain charges forward, unleashing a storm of blinding slashes. But as one wolf regenerates, he grits his teeth, realizing his attacks are losing their edge. Exhaustion begins to set in as the endless fight wears him down, frustration building with each swing. He gasps for breath, forcing himself to stay upright, desperate not to collapse while his family watches from afar. Elsewhere in the mountains, a figure sits and blames the captain for standing in his way. With a sinister grin, he declares his intent to kill. Inside the cavern, the hunters scream in agony as their bodies are taken over. Their movements grow frantic as they charge wildly, eyes glowing with rage and madness. Chaos erupts as the hunters begin to turn on one another. The mysterious voice urges Song to unleash every ounce of anger buried within. A memory surfaces of his brother stretching and greeting him. Song's brother turns in confusion as he sees Song sitting on the floor, gaming. His brother jolts in shock to see him awake, while Song merely boasts about being able to defeat the fish wolves more easily now. His brother points out the window, revealing that dawn has already arrived. Unfazed, Song mistakes the bright sun for a giant moon, while his brother glares in disbelief. Song panics when he realizes he's been playing all night and fears his parents' wrath. He hears barking outside and immediately assumes his parents have come looking for him. The game controller is instantly thrown to the ground as their father storms in angrily, scolding both of them for wasting time and staying out all night. Song's father condemns his brother for hiding and being a bad influence. The lecture continues, filled with disappointment over their choices and disbelief that either could make a living gaming or streaming. Song snaps and defends his sibling, shouting that his brother is not a failure. Fueled by anger, he declares their independence, rejecting the family's expectations and vowing to live by their own choices and dreams. The father's anger boils over as he grabs a can from the table, furious that his son dared to talk back. The throne can burst open midair. The older brother takes the hit meant for Song, the drink spilling over his head as the younger one flinches in fear behind him. The younger brother stares in shock, calling out to his brother. The older brother responds calmly, taunting their father for losing his temper so easily. He tells Song to stay strong, to hold on to his resolve and never be shaken by others' words. Back in the cave, Song stares up, haunted by doubt and fear. A sinister voice echoes in his mind, urging him to kill without hesitation. He screams in agony, fighting to silence the voice that torments him. The Rat Master appears, mocking him and declaring that his downfall has just begun. His eye snaps open sharply as Song throws a punch with blinding speed. The blow lands squarely on Song's own face. The master stares in disbelief, realizing Song is hitting himself. Song continues to pummel himself relentlessly, fists flying in a flurry. He gasps in pain, clutching his throat as his body trembles. The force sends him crashing to the ground. Bloodied and panting, he steadies himself, suddenly understanding something. Song declares his true identity as the host, finally realizing his own strength. He reflects on how he had never truly understood the immense power that came with being the host until now. He recalls all his past struggles, punishments, and moments of hardship that shaped his resolve. Surrounded by darkness, he stands tall against the voice that taunts him. A sinister voice echoes, claiming ownership over his heart. Dark tendrils coil around it, consuming it piece by piece. The voice taunts him, promising to devour him slowly. He responds in defiance, and power surges through him as he resists the consuming darkness. A flash of light bursts out, catching the controlled hunter's attention. Amidst the chaos, the Rat Master looks on in shock as the explosion subsides. It realizes with intrigue that Song has managed to achieve rebirth. The swirling red mist fades, leaving behind the aftermath of Song's transformation. A confident grin spreads across his face as he declares that the true battle is only about to begin. A sharp strike slices through the air. The fish wolf splits in two under the steel. The fighters brace themselves, exhausted and wary as the creature revives once more. Sweat drips down as they realize one of their own has already collapsed from exhaustion. The leader glances toward the tunnel, hoping the others have returned with help. The cave falls silent for a moment. Two corrupted hunters suddenly sprint from the tunnel. The leader turns, startled to see everyone retreating instead of bringing aid. The leader yells out in confusion, trying to understand why they're running towards him violently. Before he can react, one of them attacks him. The corrupted hunter lunges and pins him down. Still confused, he demands answers as he's unable to comprehend why his comrades are attacking him. A drop of liquid drips beside his face. As the beast looms closer, he realizes he's about to die. The beast lunges in with a roar, and the leader accepts his fate. Suddenly, Song arrives and lunges forward, kicking the beast with force. He proceeds with the corrupted hunter and frees the leader from his hold. The leader steadies himself and glances back. Song, now fully transformed, seizes control of his opponent with a smug grin. He playfully commands his new mount into action, charging forward with manic energy. Song delivers a finishing blow, mocking his dazed opponent. He turns to a comrade being attacked. Song launches forward midair, unleashing a kick that sends his enemy flying. His comrades watch and stare in disbelief, realizing that Song is the only one who has not been corrupted. They exchange uneasy looks, trying to make sense of the chaotic scene before them as a powerful force passes by. Song reassures them that he has handled the situation and orders them to retreat while he faces the beast alone. The two hesitate for a moment but follow his command without question. Song meets the beast head-on, his strike exploding against its face. Standing over the monster, Song remarks that their fight isn't over yet. He sends the beast flying with an uppercut and quickly follows through to continue attacking the target. Before leaping into the air, he quickly grabs his weapon, ready to strike the beast once again. He charges forward at incredible speed, leaving no room for the beast to retreat. Laughing wildly, he dives deeper into battle. His comrades watch nervously, warning him that the creature will soon revive. Song brushes off the concern, completely unbothered by the danger. Raising his blade high, he declares his intent to end it once and for all. With a devastating swing, he slices downward multiple times to leave the monster in pieces. He grins fiercely, daring the beast to recover from such a brutal attack. His laughter echoes through the cavern. His allies exchange uneasy glances, beginning to wonder if Song himself is still in control. Song slams his weapon into the ground. Breathing hard, he relaxes his grip and assumes the battle is finally over. Dark tendrils of energy begin to rise from pieces of the beast. Song stares in disbelief, realizing the creature still clings to life. He notices a sinister drop of black liquid swirling at the heart of the vortex before him. The dark liquid churns violently, taking on a monstrous form. Song recognizes the blood as the wolf's source of power and deduces that the beast is being controlled through it. With a grin, he declares that this power is nothing but nourishment for him. He quickly consumes the liquid, letting out a howl. The two hunters stare in disbelief as Song swallows the black liquid. Song's face twists into a demonic grin as he declares his hunger for more power. Back in the village, the captain huffs among the chaos. He gasps for breath, realizing that if this continues, it could cost him his life. He observes the wolves' erratic movements and suspects they are being controlled. Realization strikes him as he connects their revival to the control of blood itself. Gathering his strength, he charges toward the enemy, ready to strike. He resolves to trace the curse to its source, determined to end the spell despite his weakening body. He hears a voice commanding him to swallow it. His body stiffens as he obeys, his eyes widening in shock as dark energy takes hold of him. A surge of malice erupts violently. Desperation fills his eyes as he fights the corruption, clinging to thoughts of his family. The red aura expands as his screams echo through the chaos. Energy cracks through the air and snakes across the landscape. He finally locates the source of the corruption. From within the inferno, a figure rises. The figure realizes that the captain has awakened an elementary divine ability, stepping into cultivation through sheer will. Overwhelmed by the surge, the captain screams. Surrounded by wolves, the captain figures out in horror that the enemy is someone from his own village. His eyes widen as he feels a presence rushing toward him. He realizes that the two beasts are heading for his wife and daughter. A sudden explosion erupts from the ground. The captain reaches in time to catch and shield his wife from the chaos. As he carries his wife to safety, he catches sight of a body lying on the ground. His eyes widen in disbelief when he realizes it's his daughter. The young girl lies motionless as a figure materializes in the mist. Yang steps into view, his eyes wide and unreadable. Recognition flashes in the captain's eyes as he mutters Yang's name in shock. Yang's eyes glow red as he raises his weapon to strike the captain's daughter. The captain shouts with fury, demanding Yang to stop. Yang's face twists into a nightmarish grin. 30 years ago, the rain poured heavily in the mountains. A man shouted furiously, his blade raised high as he threatened to cut down his enemies. Another man kneels before him, eyes wide as the shining edge of death rushes toward his neck. But in that instant, another warrior intercepts the strike. Both men crash to the ground, shocking the executioners. Voices start to clash in panic as they mention that Yang and the captain are up ahead. Back in the present, a drenched sword looms above the captain's daughter. The captain kneels weakly above his daughter. The sword pierced through his back instead. He begs Yang to spare his family, reminding him of a life once saved. Yang smirks, revealing that the threat to his family was only bait to lure him into this fatal trap. Gloating, he mocks the captain's loyalty and declares his intent to claim everything he once protected. After delivering the captain's final blow, he dashes away from the scene. The captain collapses, his name fading into the wind as he hits the ground. Yang dashes through the mountains, relieved that the biggest threat is now gone. He revels in his alliance with the White Wolf King, already imagining himself as the new ruler of the village. Suddenly, his smug confidence falters as he spots something ahead. Surprise envelopes him as he sees Song on top of a massive fallen wolf. Yang sneers, resolving not to allow Song to escape. Moments earlier, Song stood in the center of a storm of power, consumed by his own growing strength. His comrades watched in disbelief, wondering if he had finally lost his mind. Suddenly, Song's expression shifted in confusion. He spat out the liquid from his mouth. The liquid splattered against the red rock, instantly confusing his comrades. The sacred stone began to react with rising energy. Song noticed how the stone started to absorb the blood, just as it had during the ritual. He grinned wickedly, realizing the power that was awakening before him. He took his sword by the hilt. With a roar, he strikes the rock in half, and his comrades couldn't help but scream. They rush in to restrain Song, shouting for him to stop before he does something irreversible. They plead with him, reminding him that the crystal represents their sacred faith. Song counters, arguing that their faith could be turned into a weapon powerful enough to face their enemies. He gives them an ultimatum of whether to die, protecting their belief, or to survive by wielding it. The two hunters stand in silence before nodding in agreement, acknowledging the decision with respect. The red crystal cracks, and Song carves out a massive chunk, ignoring the others' protests about wasting the sacred material. From the remains, he lifts a giant crimson broadsword and admires the weapon's weight and strength as if it were made just for him. Declaring the village's fate to be in their hands, he strides out with confidence. Without hesitation, he charges out of the cave. His comrades hesitate nervously, debating whether to follow his example or risk punishment. Their discussion is cut short when another hunter suddenly joins in, demanding his own weapon. The newly awakened hunter declares his intent to wield a giant hammer and prove himself in battle. Encouraged, the others excitedly choose their weapons, eager to join the fight and become heroes. Moments later, the three stand fully armed, each wielding a weapon forged from the red crystal. One of the hunters proudly announces that his massive hammer is complete. His comrades stare in disbelief as he lifts an enormous weapon, far larger than necessary. The red crystal looms silently behind them, a large chunk consumed. The ground shakes as the giant hammer is slammed down to test its weight and strength. As they rush forward, the group spots traces of battle and realizes Song was right about the ambush. They approach the cave cautiously, noticing that both the beast and Song are nowhere to be seen. Confused, they scan the terrain, wondering where their ally has gone. A dark vortex forms in the sky, and the men below look up in shock, shouting as they spot the storm. In an instant, the whirlwind crashes down and strikes the ground before them.